This is VSiN At The Track, the road to the Kentucky Derby. Now here's your hosts, Mike Somich and Aaron Halterman.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome in VSiN At The Track, road to the Kentucky Derby. I am Mike Somich. He is Aaron Halterman, and we are just 8 days away from the 151st run for the Roses. Aaron, it's basically a week. How are we doing? How excited are you for this year's edition?
Super pumped. Like you said, we're basically a week away now. Thank goodness. It's time to run. It's time to at least draw these horses and have us something a little bit more to talk about. But no, super excited. We say it every week. Such a loaded show this week as well. So much going on. But I mean, the excitement is building. You're just seeing more and more people just pumped up for it. So couldn't be more excited, ready to get this thing going.
You stole my line. I'm the one who's supposed to say it's a loaded show because it is a loaded show. We got Chris the Bear Fallica, who's going to be joining us a little bit later, talk about how he likes to bet on the Kentucky Derby and what he'll be looking for in the Derby draw that's coming up shortly. It's a Friday morning. So, of course, we've got news here, Aaron. We've got news coming in a couple hours ago, another defection. We'll talk about what that means toward this field. We'll talk a little bit about the Bathhouse Stakes as well last week over at Elkhorn. Do we think that the winner over there, Instant Replay, is going to be a player in the Preakness? We're going to talk about the current odds. Yes, you can bet the Kentucky Derby right now on legal U.S. sportsbooks. So we'll take a look at those odds, which have actually changed since last night. I love that. I love when it fluctuates. And then we mentioned it at the top of the show, the Kentucky Derby draw, just 1 day away. We will draw 4 post positions tomorrow. What does that mean? We'll look at some historical data, and we'll talk about what posts we like or dislike for some of the horses that are going to be in this year's Kentucky Derby, Aaron. I'm a big proponent of the Derby draw information, so I'm excited to go through this and look at the different stats for post positions because I do think it makes a big difference in how you're going to handicap the race.
It absolutely does. I think most of the time in horse racing, it's kind of an overrated thing. When you just have a normal size field of, say, between 9 and 12 runners, I really don't know that post position makes a huge difference. There are cases here and there. However, when it comes to the Kentucky Derby, it does make a huge difference. Why? There's 20 horses in the race. These horses will never race against 20 horses again in their careers. And like you said, usually they're racing between 9 and 12 horses, in their careers in their normal spots. So it makes a huge difference. It makes a huge different when it comes to the pace of the race and obviously the trip these horses get and are they going to be really wide, are they going to get pressed against the rail, things like that. So yes, it is the most important draw in horse racing, and it's the most dramatic draw for sure in horse racing.
Now, before we get into the news, I want to give a shout out. We are live over on VSiN's YouTube page at VSiN Live. The chat is popping off. Appreciate everybody joining us here for the live show. You can catch the replay over on VSiN proper as well as on SiriusXM channel 158 every Saturday morning. From a scheduling perspective, Aaron, we'll be on same time, same place next week, next Friday, leading up to the Kentucky Oaks. And then, of course, next Saturday, we will be on for 4 hours. That's right. You can catch us on VSiN proper, on SiriusXM channel 158, on Mad Dog Radio from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern, a special edition of VSiN At The Track leading up to and then breaking down after the Kentucky Derby. So make sure you join us next weekend. Aaron, we're starting to get a clearer picture of what this Derby is going to look like with more news that came out this morning. Built officially out of the Kentucky Derby, the Connections opting to go to the Pat Day Mile. I think that's a good decision. I think that makes that race even more interesting. That's on the undercard on Kentucky Derby Day. And that means Neo Equos into the race, ran third in the Fountain of Youth, ran third in the Florida Derby. He's now going to be inserted into the main field and the draw tomorrow. And let's start with Neo Equos and what this means from a pace perspective. You go back, you look at the past performances. This is a horse that was sprinting before he ran in those 2 longer races, the 2 Derby preps. He was on the lead in those sprints, going 22 and change, 23 and change. Does this mean Neo Equos injects another pace player into the Derby, Aaron?
I think it absolutely does. I think this is absolutely going to heat up the pace even more than it already is. And it seems like, Somich, with each passing day, we get more and more, hey, this pace is going to be fast. This pace is going to be fast type of news. Basically, what happened is it looked like it was going to be slower. A couple horses kind of qualified for the Derby late that left a couple horses that were pretty fast outside of the top 20. And then they've been drawing in as we get closer to the race. So, yes, Neo Equos is a horse that I don't think has much of a chance to actually win the race. But I will say, and I think it's very clear when you look at what he's done, he has a great chance to make this a faster pace, because what does he do? Break from the gate, break well, go right to the front. You're not going to change up that style in the Kentucky Derby. That's what he's going to do here in this one as well. So he's just another pace presence out there. And it's a Florida-bred horse, smaller connections. They've got to be very, very excited to run in the race. So I'm kind of happy they got in. And if you like closers, you got to be happy that they got in as well.
I'm not sure if we can talk about C2 being smaller connections anymore. They have White Barrio. That's a pretty big horse for them, and a Breeders' Cup Classic winner. Congratulations to C2. Great guys over there. Been able to interview them in the past. I love what they're doing for the sport, also giving to the Aftercare Alliance as well. So good job by C2. Congratulations. You're in the Derby here. And you mentioned Neo Equos. If he draws inside specifically, I think he flies out of the gate. We saw him in the Florida Derby draw the rail, go right to the lead, and then go a little bit wide and be able to peel off into the second position, so he was able to stalk the pace, but still saw that early speed from Neo Equos. So I do think he is going to be yet another player here in the pace. Now, more Derby news, Aaron. Render Judgment is officially out of the race. So Kenny McPeak came out, said that Render Judgment not going to run. Now, he wasn't in the main field, but that does matter. For my boy, and I guess your boy as well, Bieza now up to number 21. So we are, 28 hours away from the Derby draw here, and Bieza just one spot out. Do we get that one more defection for him to make the main field, or is he going to be the first also eligible?
I'm afraid it's going to come back to what you were afraid of and talked about earlier on some of our shows. He may be number 21, right? And he may end up actually getting in the gate. He just needs one scratch after they draw, but it may be the dreaded, you're in, but now you're automatically in the 20 hole, because when you're also eligible and somebody scratches, you just automatically slide into the 20 hole. So that's kind of the big story. Will there be a defection between now and when they draw on Saturday? And if there is, then all of a sudden he's one of the 20 that are going to get drawn, and maybe he can get a better post. But I think at this point, he's probably going to end up 21, and it's probably going to be, oh boy, hopefully we get a scratch, but you're still going to be at number 20. Now, I do have some breaking news right as we came on here. Render Judgment's now back under consideration a little bit. Kenny McPeak said maybe I spoke a little too soon, which kind of tells me maybe the owners called and said, we're going to run, actually, if we make it. So he may still even be 22. I don't want to say anything official one way or another until we get absolute official word on that, but I have heard rumors of that as well. But yeah, as we sit right now, again, Baez is the big story of the also eligibles. I still don't think he's getting in.
You got to love the Derby fever and the back and forth that you get from these top 20. Owen Almighty was out. He's in. There's been rumors Owen Almighty might be out again now. So we'll see if Owen Almighty ends up in the main body of the field. That could be the one scratch that makes the difference. And we have seen in past years, Aaron, defections out of the Derby after the draw. Rich Strike ends up winning the race out of the 20 post because he wasn't also eligible. So we will have a full week leading up to the race. We may see 1 to 2 scratches in that process as well. So we'll see if Baeza able to get into this race, and his price is going to be very interesting. I'll tease this one. I mentioned we've seen some prices move. He was 20 to 1 yesterday on Caesars. He's 28 to 1 now. All those bets are live. So if you bet him and he doesn't run, you lose. One of the reasons why we're seeing that price fluctuate specifically with the different news that's coming out. And speaking of news, Aaron, it's workout week over at Churchill Downs. Everybody heading out onto that track. And guess what? I haven't heard a single horse have a bad workout yet. We've had Sovereignty, to Pond Street, and Journalism all hit the track. Journalism going to work out again tomorrow over there. Well, first off, do you care about workouts for the Kentucky Derby?
I don't. I personally don't, because like you said, every horse looks great. Every horse looks great. You get the report, every horse looks great. The only thing I care about is when somebody says, hey, this horse didn't look very good. That is actually breaking news. Here's a secret for everybody listening right now. If you're a Kentucky Derby horse and you're doing just halfway decent, you're going to look great in the morning. Why? Because you're one of the best 20 horses in this crop right now, and you're going to look amazing. You're here for a reason. So overall, no, unless it's negative news, I really don't pay a whole lot of attention to it.
Well, it's also a business, right? And these trainers are trying to get connections, give them horses in future years so that they have the opportunity to try and qualify for this race. And the last thing you want, it's funny because this is the day after the first round of the NFL draft. Every single organization comes out and says, we got the guy we wanted. He was always the one, right? Well, that's because you want to hype up that player, right? Well, a lot of these trainers are hyping up their owners, making them think they have a shot at winning this race, that the horse is doing phenomenal, that they've done everything they can to get this horse in peak condition for this first Saturday in May. Because of that, I agree with you. I do care about workouts for other races. But for the Kentucky Derby, this is one where you just have so much fodder come out around how everyone's so fast and just skipping over the Churchill Downs track. And they love this surface. And it's only the negative stuff I care about. If you do hear people come out and say, you know, so-and-so horse does not like the Churchill Downs track, or he wasn't running very well this morning, or he looks less fit than we've seen in previous workouts, that definitely matters, Aaron, because that's the stuff that you're not expecting people to say.
Absolutely right. Yeah, absolutely right. And when it, like you said, when it comes to the positive, you kind of just have to have a couple guys maybe that follow the workout game that kind of will give you a little bit more of an in-depth look at it. Like, so I heard journalism got in from California, and his first couple of times over the track, people were telling me, a couple people that are local that know were like, hey, he kind of looks better than what we've seen so far. That doesn't mean he's going to win the Derby. That doesn't even mean like his last serious work's going to look like great. But what they're saying is like, hey, him on the track, he looks the part of the favorite. That stuff I listen to. The other stuff, not so much.
Now, if you're looking to bet any races this weekend or the Kentucky Oaks, the Kentucky Derby next weekend, head over to firstbet.com. Our friends over there are offering you a bonus here. Get up to $200 back and a 20% rebate over at firstbet.com right now. That's the number one, STBET.com. Use promo code VSiN200 and you'll get a 20% rebate on your first 60 days for up to $200. Stick with us here, VSiN at the Track.
Tuned in to VSiN at the Track, the road to the Kentucky Derby, right here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Welcome back in your VSiN at the Track, road to the Kentucky Derby. We are off and running with a news-filled first segment as well as first break. If you want to catch that out, you can make sure you can see it at YouTube there at VSiN Live. We are going to be live there next Friday as well. Same time, same place. You can find out all the news leading up into Kentucky Derby Saturday. And, of course, on Saturday, Kentucky Derby Day, 4 to 8 Eastern. You can join Aaron Halterman and I over on VSiN proper as well as on channel 158 on SiriusXM. So make sure you're checking that out. And Aaron, a lot going on in that first segment. I forgot to do a couple things, including our top 5 the Kentucky Derby here. So let's jump right into it. Kentucky Derby top 5, one day before the draw. Let's run your list down first. Who do you got here? Your top 5 in the Kentucky Derby.
All right, yeah, I'll run them down one by one. I'll start with number 5. Tistastic for me, number 5. Look, I think there is going to be a plenty of pace now, so I'm not quite as worried about closers. I think they're going to have a great shot to win this thing. And you look at Tistastic, a horse that really improved when stretching out to 1 mile and 3/16 last time out, and then also a horse that weaved in and out of traffic. And I think that was very important to show that he could do it, because he's going to have to do it again on next Saturday. So Tistastic 5 for me. Sovereignty number 4, same kind of thing, a closer that I am getting higher and higher on as the pace heats up. I was disappointed with his last race. I'm not going to, make any bones about it, but I do like him at number 4 still. I think he's in with a big shot. Number 3 is Rodriguez. This is the horse most likely to drop from my list. I'm just holding on and waiting and seeing the official entries to make sure that pace is going to be as hot as what we project. If it is, he's going to have a hard time. But if for some reason he can get out in front, maybe he can take him gate to wire. So Rodriguez 3 for me. Sandman 2, a horse that has really been impressing people at locally there at Churchill. But like we said, not a big deal there. He ran very well, though, in the Arkansas Derby last time out. He's got a huge fan base. We know that, and that could be a bad thing for the odds. And then finally, Journalism number 1. He's just been the best horse of the preps. I'll keep him number 1 for now. Nothing kind of talking me off of him at this moment. So Journalism rounds out at number 1 once again this week.
I hear the caution in your voice in your top five. You're starting to sway. You're starting to break a little bit on Rodriguez, on Sandman as well. So that's I'm glad you're starting to come around. Let's look at the correct top five list here for the Kentucky Derby. Number 5, he's got to get in, but if he does, Beza has to be on everybody's list. This is a horse that was awesome in the Santa Anita Derby. The big question mark, is he going to get into the race? If he does, I'm really interested to see what his odds are right now. I mentioned 28-1 in the future pool. He's not going to be 28-1 come race day if he is in the field of this race. Number 4 for me, Grande, Todd Pletcher, Mike Rapoli here, a horse that I thought ran a very good second in the Wood Memorial to Rodriguez, who's sitting there at number 3 on Aaron's list. Rodriguez kind of got everything his own way that day. It was Grande's first time facing graded stakes company, and he did not. I was very impressed with Grande able to do. Another one that I think is going to be very interesting from a price perspective, specifically underneath. Number 3 for me, Tappan Street, winner of the Florida Derby. This is a very, very nice comeback after skipping the Fountain of Youth. He looked great in that spot. Number 2, the horse Aaron is starting to come around on, Sovereignty. Never less that number 2 spot for me. I thought he was wildly impressive. Winning at Gulfstream, I don't think his Florida Derby was as good, but I thought the trip was a little bit worse, so willing to excuse it there. And number 1, honestly, Journalism should be number 1 on everybody's list. Maybe you're not picking him. I get it. He's clearly the best horse heading into the race. And so then it becomes a price perspective of, do you think the price is too short considering the 20-horse field? But from a talent perspective, Journalism is right now the best 3-year-old that we have running in America. And Aaron, you mentioned with Sandman the odds and what's going to happen there. That, I think, is a great segue into what we're going to talk about here with the remaining part of this segment, and that is, what are the odds right now? Day before the draw, let's take a look at the current fixed odds market. If you want to get a bet in, is now a good time to bet the horse? Is it a bad time to bet that horse? I think it's a great idea to look and decide if you want to get some tickets in before we see the draw, because we are going to see the odds move once this flashes. And right now, your favorite over at Caesars Sportsbook, Journalism, sitting there at 3-1. You can get Sovereignty at plus 675. Sandman sitting there at 8-1. Tappan Street and Luxor Cafe sitting at 12. Rodriguez at 10. Burnham Square at 11. Citizen Bull at 16, Grande 15, American Promise and Bieza at 20. Now, Bieza moved to 21 after this morning. And then Tistastic sitting at 22-1. Journalism also got bet this morning, Aaron. He went from 3-1 down to plus 250 on the book. So we are seeing some Journalism money start to come in as well. And let's start there. Plus 250, 3-1. Is that a fair price on Journalism, or do you think that's what we're going to get next Saturday? Because when you're betting this a week early, you want to make sure your odds are better than the off odds in the actual race.
I think he's to the point now where you can't bet him with a future ticket, because I think you're going to get that when the gates open. And so you don't have to worry about, hey, what if he gets injured between now and the Kentucky Derby? You can just wait until he's going to run, because I think 3-1 is what he's going to go off at. So I certainly would not bet him at 5-2. I definitely wouldn't bet him at 3-1 either. He'd have to now be 7-2, 4-1 before you get any kind of value on that. So Journalism, if you want to bet him to win, I get it. Hold off, wait till the race. I just think with so many other horses that we'll talk about here in a second, I just don't think there's a world where he's going off at less than 5-2.
Yeah, I would agree with you. We talked about him at 4-1. That was like, okay, you can get some value here. Now that we're sitting at 3-1, 5-2, I don't think there is much value left in Journalism. Not saying it's a bad price on the horse. I'm just saying if you get it on Saturday, why wait a week when if he scratches between now and the actual race, you lose, instead of just getting a refund back if he ends up out of the race on next Saturday. So I would lay off on Journalism, and that kind of brings us to this next segment here. We'll put Rodriguez at 10-1, Burnham Square at 11-1, Luxor Cafe and Tappan Street at 12-1, and then Sandman and Sovereignty are 8-1 and plus 675 respectively. This is kind of that middle tier, that second tier, where we're going to see most likely one or two of these horses sub 10-1 and everyone else over that number. Do you think there's any value in any of these horses currently at their number?
I would take a look at Tappan Street at 12-1. I just kind of feel like he's getting a little bit of hype, like some hype of people that actually make large wagers, like not really so much a wise guy horse, but just a horse that it's like, okay, we're looking at his resume. He won the Florida Derby. That's obviously a huge prep race. And then we're looking at what he does at the track right now and how he's working out. And the buzz around Churchill Downs seems to be that, you know what? he's looking good. He's looking like a horse that's really improving. So I'm not sure that he's going to go off at 12-1 on Derby Day. I could see him being one out of that group that gets bet down a little bit harder. Plus, you've got Brad Cox, of course, a local trainer there from Louisville, but also just a great trainer in general that you could see holding the trophy, right? I mean, that's just one of the best trainers in the country. I think he's the value at 12-1 right now. I think there's a world where he's 8 to 10-1 come Kentucky Derby Saturday.
Yeah, I think that 10-1 to 12-1 group is very interesting. I think you have to keep an eye on Luxor Cafe just because we've seen so much steam on international horses the last couple years, and then Forever Young runs second last year. I wouldn't be shocked if you get a decent chunk of change coming in on one of the horses that is a little less known in the field. The horse I would bet now, if I liked him, I don't, but the horse I would bet now is Sandman. I think Sandman goes off as your second choice in this race. Right now you get 8-1. We've talked about this on here before. You've got a big-time influencer on TikTok, on YouTube, on X, Griffin Johnson, who's backing this horse, part of the ownership group. I think that money comes in next Saturday. And because of that, I wouldn't bet Sovereignty right now. I think Sovereignty is the horse of this group that actually floats up in price, Aaron.
Oh, I totally agree with that. And I don't know if you saw, but Metallica outfitted the whole barn in gear, like T-shirts and stuff. So you've got that kind of going behind Sandman as well. Plus, we were kind of asking just people that don't really follow horse racing, just like, hey, look at these names and kind of tell me which one you love. And everybody picked Sandman, right? So,
yep.
and most day in and day out, that doesn't matter, but in the Derby, it does. We had a horse a long time ago, like a Happy Jack. Well, his name was Jack. So everybody that's named Jack bet the horse, stuff like that happen. So it happens every year. So Sandman's going to take kind of some casual money as well. I'm totally with you. I think Sovereignty might be 10-1 by the time the gates open. I really do. So I'm with you there. I would hold off. And like you said, Sandman 8-1, that's still not a good enough price for me. But if you are a huge Sandman fan, he's probably going to be 5-1. I think in the Kentucky Derby, if all this steam actually develops, he's going to get bet down pretty hard.
Yeah, you've got an influencer, you got Metallica, and every time I see the name, I think of the Yankees. I think of Mariano Rivera running in from center field with Enter Sandman as well. So it's going to be a big part of the broadcast. You're going to see a lot of people talk about this. You're going to see a ton of social media content around Sandman next Saturday. All of that equates to money. Remember, $40 million gets bet on the Derby every year in the win pool. Sandman's going to take a decent chunk of that just from people coming on the outside. And I thought you said something that was very, very sharp a couple weeks ago. If you like Sandman and you're not going to bet him now, betting him in daily doubles, betting him in pick threes, betting him in the Oaks Derby double, all great ways to get away from that public money.
Yeah, you have to realize that there's the pools like that. Those are the gamblers, right? The public is just betting that win. So, he might pay double and triple what he should be paying based on his odds when you look at those daily doubles and those pick threes. So got to keep that in mind. If you love him and that price isn't quite where you want it a couple hours before the race, get creative. It's okay to do that. And it's okay to love him, but you can get a better, value on him looking at those other wagers that the public haven't really hit yet.
The beauty of Derby Day, they also update the prices throughout the day. So you'll know a couple hours where that price on Sandman is going to be. Stick with us here, VSiN at the Track. On the other side, the one, the only Chris the Bear Fallica.
Tuned in to VSiN at the Track, the road to the Kentucky Derby, right here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back in VSiN at the Track. I am Mike Somich. He is Aaron Halterman, and I could not be more excited to bring our next guest in here. He is Chris the Bear Fallica. You can find his work over at Fox Sports. You can find him at Chris Fallica on X. Make sure you check out the Bear Bets podcast there over at Fox Sports as well. Chris, how's it going, man? Happy Friday.
It is Happy Friday. Unfortunately, we got a terrible, sloppy track in such a Keeneland for closing day, but hopefully the weather will be great this weekend where Churchill opens up, and more importantly, hopefully the weather will be great next Friday and Saturday, and we'll get a nice, fast, and firm turf course for those 2 unbelievable days of racing.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm already looking at the weather for next Friday and Saturday. We're supposed to get some rain midweek. We just need the sun to come out so that we can have a nice, fast Kentucky Derby. Never fun. Well, it's not bad when they're running in the slop. It's still the Kentucky Derby, but I'd rather have fast and firm there, Chris. What type of traditions do you have leading up to the Kentucky Derby from a handicapping perspective, and then on the day of the races, where do you end up watching?
Well, it depends if I go to the race or not, which I have done quite a bit in recent years. Last year I did not go, and this year I'm not going mainly because of like our spring summer vacation like always falls like right after the Derby, so it's hard to pull it off. But I would always go with Kirk Herbstreit and a group of his friends, and we'd sit in the 300 section there in the boxes and get liquored up and stuff our faces and have fun and teach people who don't know how to read the racing form do that for a couple of days. But that was always a lot of fun. But yeah, then when I'm here at home in Connecticut, where I will be this week, it usually turns into the, I'm sure you guys get the same thing, like the random text from someone who like doesn't really follow horse racing. You maybe hear from them once a year. And it's like, hey, Derby's today. Who do you got? So it's like I have the form text ready to go with like, yeah, here's a 4-horse exacta box for you to bet. So I got that, and I'll just be gearing up throughout the week, doing a couple podcasts like I always do, writing some picks up for foxsports.com now, and just can kind of figure out a way to separate the clutter from the actual legitimate noise.
It's funny you mentioned the random text from the person that you haven't talked to in a year, and it's like, oh, the last time he texted me was the first Saturday in May. How funny, So it's amazing.
So funny because it is because I had like saved messages forever for a while, and literally there were like 2 people that showed up. It was like text May 1, 2023, text May 2, 2020. It was just so funny, but. Yeah, I don't mind, but that's good. It shows that this race still matters to people, even who, unlike us, who don't follow the sport day in and day out and week in and week out throughout the year.
Now, we've seen a lot of buzz around the draw, whether or not Bays is going to make it in, make it out. I know I love him if he gets in. I'd love to see it. How important is the Derby draw for you? Because this is the one race where we really make a big deal out of different post positions. Do you take any of those issues into account, the outside being bad, the inside being bad when you're doing your handicapping?
I'll tell you what, with the old auxiliary gate and the other 16-horse, 15-horse gate, it was a major deal. And it's funny you say this because I actually was thinking about that before I came on, and I'm like, let me pull up the database that I have with all of the post positions and stuff in the history. And in the last couple of years, ever since they made the change, like the inside posts haven't affected the horses that really were contenders. In 2022, Epicenter drew the 3 post and ran well, ran a winning race. Ran second. 2 fills a couple of years ago. Drew the 3 post, was less than was 9-1 or so. Ran well, ran second. Last year you had the 1-2 finishers come from Sierra Leone in the 2 post and Mystic Dan from the 3 post. So like those inside posts that used to kind of be the death knell, like when you had Johannesburg on the rail and some other horses that had just absolutely no shot. It's kind of lessened a little bit. This new gate has kind of made it a little bit fairer. Now, I still don't think it's ideal. I think ultimately it comes down to the pace of the race. But as Mystic Dan and some others have shown over the last couple of years, you can make a trip from the inside as long as you don't find yourself like breaking like a rocket right on top and being on the lead.
Yeah, it's kind of long overdue. There's no doubt about it. We needed to get this thing changed, and I agree with you. It has helped a little bit. You mentioned the pace just real quick there when you were talking, and we've been talking about that a little bit as well. Boy, as it gets closer, it feels like this pace is really heating up. Kind of how do you see it going on the front end? And do you kind of see it like we do? It's like, man, this could get fast.
Yeah, this could be like Song and a Prayer setting it up for Monarchos. It seems like right now, because you've got American Promise, who is going to be on the lead. You've got East Avenue, who is going to be on the lead. Some others in the race will certainly be up and near the lead. Nielkos with getting in now, I'm sure he will be up near the lead. So it certainly does feel like this is going to set up, if not for a stone cold closer in the race, but someone maybe from that mid pack. But I do think we're going to be looking at a very fast opening half mile, and we'll see who can be left standing, who doesn't get sucked in too close to the pace and really runs their race before the real running begins.
It's funny. A couple weeks ago, it did not feel like we were on pace very quick early fractions there, and then we see East Avenue get in, and now Neo Equos is in, and all of a sudden it's like, well, they're going to go pretty quick early. We'll see who was able to benefit from that. And now, Chris, the Derby, a very interesting betting race because you have that $1 superfecta. You can bet win and get a very good win price on a lot of the recent winners. Is there any way that you like to attack the Kentucky Derby from a betting perspective?
Yeah, I like always finding one horse or one or two horses that I want to key in. Usually they are a couple of mid-price horses. Last year, fortunately, Mr. Dan was one of them, and that worked out for me. But I will usually find like two horses. I'll play a tri-key, and I'll put like those two price horses in one spot, and then I'll put the favorite second choice, my other two horses, and maybe another horse in another spot in the tri. And then I'll put a bunch of horses in the third spot in the tri outside of the ridiculous no-hopers in the race. I'll probably wind up with like a tri of like 2 times 4 times like 13 or something like that. So that turns out what eight and like $100 for a dollar tri. And if I'm right, you're probably going to get paid. But I like looking at that way. I'll look for like a 4 or 5 horse tops. Exacta box if I'm only using some price horses and one of the favorites. I think that is paid in the past. It worked out well when Country House got put up in 2019. That worked out great. I like keying a horse in an exacta both ways as well a couple of times. Basically, I try to make myself where if I'm right once, then I'm going to wind up hitting a bunch of races. And if I'm wrong, I'm going to be on the outside end. But how that affects this year's race, I mean, I could very easily see myself, depending on how the day is going, or maybe I should just put it in right at the start of the day, is just kind of playing journalism, like a journalism all trifecta boxing. You basically just going 1 times 19 times 18, basically, and seeing what happens there, because I think he's going to be hard to leave out of the try.
So we've only got about a minute and a half left here. So journalism, that's your guy. I think that's everybody. Is there one other horse for, not everybody, I should say, but that's a lot of people, right. I should say. But is there one other horse, middle of the road type of price? You kind of mentioned that we won't hold you to it because they haven't drawn yet, but one horse you're kind of looking at and saying, I think this could kind of juice this thing up a little bit.
I mean, I'm curious what to see the price on Luxor Cafe will be. I think because of the success of the Japanese horses in recent years, he'll probably get bet down, and I think he's one of the few horses in the race that has a ton of upside. I'm curious too what the price ultimately will be on Tistastic. I know Steve Asmussen has not won this race, but this is a horse that has a couple of good races over the Churchill surface, which I always think is important. I want a horse that has shown that he doesn't dislike Churchill. The fact that this horse has run well, could be a fast pace. Finally broke through in Louisiana Derby at a nice number. I know Steve hasn't won the race. Maybe he's going to have too much work to do, but Tistastic might be another one of those second-tier price horses to include in your all of your multi-races.
He's Chris Fallica. You can find him over with Fox Sports. You can find him on X at Chris Fallica, and of course the Bear Bets podcast. Chris, thank you very much for joining us, man. Good luck with everything come Derby Saturday.
Absolutely. Let's talk at some point next week. Maybe we can share some ideas on the other races, which were always fun.
Yeah, let's do it. We're going to be on air for 4 hours, so we'll be going over all the pre-card races as well. I love the undercard of the Kentucky Derby. It's kind of like a mini Breeders' Cup, and Chris referenced that, where there's the phenomenal racing on Friday and Saturday, Aaron. We get to see all the stars next weekend, not just the 3-year-olds.
Hey, I just want to tell you this. He said Tistastic. I said Tistastic. Are you on Tistastic now? That's two people, one that you don't respect and one that you do. So...
That's a good point. I do respect Chris's opinion. We're not so much on yours. Anyway, stick with us here, VSiN at the Track. We're going to talk more about the draw in the next segment, as well as talk about how that post positions affect our bets and historically how each of them have done.
tuned in to VSiN At The Track, the road to the Kentucky Derby, right here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Welcome back in here, VSiN At The Track. I'm Mike Somich. He is Aaron Halterman. And Aaron, that was a blast. Appreciate Chris for coming on the show there. And you mentioned it during the break. You can tell the man bets horses just by the way he talks. It's that lingo that comes out. We're going to talk a little more about that lingo in our show next week. 4 hours there on YouTube or on VSiN proper, as well as over on SiriusXM channel 158 Mad Dog Radio. Next Saturday, Derby Saturday from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you stick with us. We'll be talking about all the undercard races as well, Aaron, so can't wait to get that going. But the big news tomorrow here, going to be the Kentucky Derby draw. They moved this from Monday to Saturday. Thank you. I appreciate it. Bieza doesn't really thank you because it gives him 48 hours less for someone to exit out of the race here. But we are going to have our draw tomorrow, Aaron. Number one thing you're looking for when they draw, what is it?
Oh, it's where journalism's going to draw, or the horse I like, where he is going to draw. That's always number one. And number two is who's going to get the rail? Because I do think Chris did point out, hey, these inside post positions, it's not as bad as it used to be. It's still not absolutely ideal, though. I'd still rather be towards the outside versus the inside. So who draws the 1, the 2, the 3? Are they serious contenders, and will that hinder their chances? Now, some horses, when they draw inside, if they're horses that like to come from way out of it, maybe it's not going to be too big of a deal, but those middle of the pack horses or horses that have early speed, where they draw really makes a big difference. So yeah, where does my horse that I want to bet draw, and then who gets that inside post?
And not selfish at all there, right? Where's my pick? That's what I want to know. Where's he going to end up? For me, it's where does the speed draw? Because when you have these draws, and I agree with you, and we'll talk about the post positions and the pluses and minuses for certain spots, but the speed and where they draw affects the pace. If you have speed inside or speed outside, you are generally going to see a faster pace because they have to use a little bit more out of the gate, and they know that to be able to move forward. I also want to know if any horse is stuck between speed horses. If there's speed in 6, speed in 8, who's in 7? Because immediately they're not going to break very well because they're going to have 2 horses fire out in front of them, and most likely you're going to see that outside horse move over to the inside horse, and all of a sudden the horse in the middle is negatively affected by it. So for me, it's all about where that speed draws. Now, let's take a look here at the first 10 post positions that we're going to see in the Kentucky Derby, so 1 through 10, and historically how well they have won the race. You're going to see that there with a percentage, and then how much they've hit the board. So in the money, first, second, or third. The last winner is in the third column, and then the last horse to run in the money is the fourth. And we start out here with the inside. Posts 1 through 4 traditionally not been very good posts in the Kentucky Derby. Now, you'll see the win stats and the in the money stats a little bit higher for some of those. You've got to remember, this takes into account every single Kentucky Derby. We didn't have 20 horses in the field forever, Aaron. Once we went to 20 horses, we've really seen the wave of horses move from the outside to the inside negatively affect inside runners. What horse, so let's say journalism draws the 3 posts, the 2 posts. Is that a big problem for journalism? Or do you think that that's something he can overcome in this spot?
Look, he can overcome it. There have been situations where horses will get kind of trips you didn't think were going to happen from the inside post. But I do not want him in 2 or 3 at all. Again, can he overcome it? Yes. But does it make his job that much tougher? Yes, it absolutely would. And I think, you said, hey, we haven't had 20 horses forever. You look at the one hole, you look, okay, 8.4% winners. That's not horrible. Then you look, 1986 was the last time a horse won from the rail. And then you look, the last horse to hit the board was 2017. It was looking at Lee, and it was from a closer who, if you go back and watch that race, he just got a beautiful dream trip. I heard Steve Asmussen talking about it today. Actually, I was watching a video. He's like, I actually thought out of all my Derby runners, looking at Lee, other than Epicenter, I thought he was going to win it at most points during the stretch, and he just couldn't get there. So there can be perfect scenarios that come out, but on average, journalism in 1, 2, 3, even 4, I'm not going to feel just great about that. I remember Curlin, who was the sire of journalism. Curlin drew post 2, and it cost him the race because, like you said, there was speed on the inside, there was speed on the outside. He gets sandwiched. All of a sudden, he's 5-6 lengths further back than where he wanted to be.
Now, we saw Sierra Leone last year hit the board, almost win the race from that 2 post. Mystic Dan wins from the 3 post. One thing I want to note about both of them, they were both dead closers, right? Way back of the pack and then going to make one big run. I think the inside, and we'll talk about this to the outside as well, it's not as bad if you're a closer, right? It's these middle of the pack horses that want to be 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, somewhere in that range that get stuck on the inside. They end up 15th because, again, there's just a wall of horses that goes over on them there. And then the other thing, I think Chris mentioned this, since we've moved away from the auxiliary gate to the 20 post gate, there's a little more room on the inside. So this first stall is 1 stall out from the rail. That gives you a little more maneuverability, which means the 3 now is like what the 2 was, or the 4 was before. So you're actually having an advantage to move 1 out there as well. So not nearly as deadly. Now, if you look at the 6 through 10 posts, or the 5 through 10 posts, Aaron, this is where you want to be. This is the heart of the field. You have that 6 post at 2.1%. That's an anomaly, folks. There just haven't been many good horses that are sitting in that 6 post. If you could pick your spot, you want to be between 5 and 10, right, Aaron?
Absolutely. If I trained a horse or owned a horse and you gave me my choice and I got the first choice, I'd hang the jockey silks on number 7. I just think that's a perfect post, right? But you're right. 5 through 10, that's where you want to be. Anything, I mean, even like 11, 12, 13, we'll get to in a second. That's okay as well. Just those middle posts are where you want. Any trainer that they've talked to, they'll say, hey, just give me a middle post. I don't care where it's at as long as it's in that range of like 5 through 12, we'll be fine. So these are the ones you love. If you're a speed horse, you're fine. If you're a horse that likes to sock the pace, you should be okay. Save ground a little bit. And even if you're in the middle of the pack, you can save ground on the turns and be good.
The other key about the middle of the pack is that generally you get to still make decisions as a jockey. If you're stuck on the inside, you're probably closing and you're going to have to do it up the rail. If you're all the way on the outside, you're probably going to have to close and you're going to be wide into the first turn. It's very difficult to get around that. These middle posts, you can kind of decide, do I want to be in the 2 path, the 3 path? Do I want to be closer to the pace? Do I want to back off? It just simply gives you more options. Now, looking at the posts 11 through 20, what jumps out to me specifically is, first off, you're going to hear the curse of the 17 post. No one has ever won the race from the 17 post. I think it's kind of an anomaly that no one's ever won, but if you look at the win percentages in the 17, 18, and 19, 5.4 and 3.2, clearly bad posts. I can't explain why the 20 post is won 10% of the time. We saw Rich Strike win from that post. We saw Big Brown win from that post. Country House was the 20 post. I'm sorry, Country House the 18 because of scratches, but number 20. So you've seen winners out of that post, but it's still not one that you want, Aaron.
No, it's not. I mean, I think if you're a closer, again, you got a little bit better of a chance. But again, you're going to have to cross all the way over, because you still, if you break 20 and you want to close, you're still going to have to cross like 10 links over to get in that position. So I don't know why 20 is kind of the standout there of like, that's weird. I think the thing is, the one advantage you have, you stay away from the mess. If you're way outside, you're going to have to concede that you're going to go wide, but you do stay away from the wall of horses onto your inside there. So that could be the big reason. 17, it's going to happen someday. They've won all around it. 17, that curse will be broke one day.
Yeah, it is interesting when you look at these posts, though, and you look at the years that they were last won in. You've got winning colors in the 11, it's 1988. The 12 is 1971. You've got Nyquist, 2016 from the 13 post, Kerry Black, 1961 from the 14 post. A lot of years in there that's not anytime close. And a lot of the horses on the second half of the page, too. Phenomenal, like all-time level horses who had a shot at winning the Triple Crown. You got Authentic sitting there in the 15 post. That was a horse that went on to win the Breeders' Cup Classic. So if you want to be one of these outside posts, it feels like outside of, no knock on Rich Strike or Country House, but outside of those two, you got to be a very, very good horse to get the job done from outside the 11 post.
Absolutely. You got to be much the best. You got to be much the best. Like when Big Brown drew the 20, he was just much the best. He would have won from anywhere, maybe except the rail, right? So you got to be better than the rest of the field by quite a bit to win it, or you just got to have luck like Rich Strike had.
Now, if you want to bet on these races, the Kentucky Derby, the Oaks, any of the prep races, if you're watching us on VSiN, you can bet on those as well. Make sure you head over to firstbet.com. Take your betting to the next level with First Bet, whether it's at Santa Anita, Gulfstream, or any of the Kentucky Derby weekend races. First Bet puts you in the action. Sign up now at firstbet.com. That's the number 1, STBET.com, and use promo code VSiN200 to score a 20% rebate on all your wagers, win or lose, for the first 60 days up to $200. Don't miss out. Bet smarter today at firstbet.com. Aaron, we got the draw tomorrow. We've got VSiN at the Track next Friday. Same time, same place, 2:15 Eastern here at VSiN Live over on the YouTube page. You can catch the replay Saturday mornings, channel 158 on SiriusXM and VSiN proper. And then on next Saturday, we'll be live for the Kentucky Derby from 4 p.m. Eastern to 8 p.m. Eastern. We will lead you up to the race. We will have the race on the air and then talk about the race afterward as well. Journalism, your pick before the draw, right?
Yep, absolutely. He is. I will say it could change for the draw. I'm not like locked in, but yes, as of now, journalism.
I'm leaning sovereignty. I'm going to stick with my Florida connections. I think journalism is going to get beat a week out. We'll find out if that changes in 1 week. Thanks for watching VSiN at the Track.